It's time to talk about the abomination that you're seeing here. This is a Glock 17 Gen 1. Original one, not a polymer or the P80. They did a repro a few years back. This is not that. This is a legitimate one from 1987. It's one of the first ones imported in the United States. I don't know if this particular one was, but that's pretty early on. I'd have to look up when they were being imported, but we got ourselves an old Glock here, and I kind of wanted to approach this from a different sort of line of thinking than like 110 SAS. So like the 110 SAS actual method is to take an old gun and then modernize it. So he took that 1911, he's taken like M1 carbines, Garands, and he's sort of given them this, how do I put it? He takes them, he mills the slides, gets the frame cut for light. So he's got a 1911 out there that has an RMR and a Surefire. So he was like, I'm gonna bring the 1911 into the modern era. The future is now, old man. It's time to keep serving. It's like the whole, like, I'm tired of this, grandpa. It's like, that's too damn bad. So he's putting the 1911 to work. I have a different philosophy when it comes to certain guns like this. So instead of taking an old Glock such as this, I was about to flag myself. Instead of taking a Glock like this and messing it up, right? And milling the slide, getting the frame cut for a, I don't know if you can do that, but getting it, you probably could just like, all you need to do is like cut out right here so that you can put a light on here. Instead of doing that, I wanted to go, say I was going back in time, and I ended up in 1998 and I got my hands on a Gen 1 Glock. Now, for whatever reason, I don't know why I'm back in time, just go with this scenario, okay? Let's say that I want to apply the modern idea of handgun fighting, which sounds cringe because I'm not a handgun fighter, but modern handguns ideas to an old gun. Well, this is what I would do. I would take, come on, focus for me. I would take an old gun like this. I would find what red dots were available in 1998. Tasco Optima 2000. And then if I couldn't get a Surefire 644 to hang on to the trigger guard here, I would get this magazine adapter for a 1-inch body flashlight, such as, you know, we have the Surefire 6P down here. So this is kind of a little setup that I was researching about online because I was looking for ways to mount a light. And the Surefire 644 exists, but it's expensive, and I don't really want to spend $500 on a super old light like that. That probably is no good, but that clips onto the trigger guard here. You know, it doesn't require the rails or anything. So I saw somebody online say that something the officers used to do if they were looking to put a light on their gun was to take basically these little magazine, you just take the base plate off of the magazine and you replace it with this one that I guess Glock made because it says Glock on the bottom, and you slip that onto the, replaces the base plate with this loop that you fit a 1-inch flashlight in, and then you just torque it down, you tighten it down. That's what this knob here is for, and you're able to have a flashlight. I find that it actually, when you have it on, it actually does not, your hands don't cover or it, your hands don't get in the way or anything. You can actually, it actually works pretty well. So that is kind of cool. It just looks ugly. And then there's the whole thing of like, well, if you need to reload, like, what do you do? The way that I figure is if I need to reload, I got a fresh reload in here. I'm like this. So I'm using this kind of like the right angle flashlights that the military use in like Vietnam and stuff. So I'm up here like this, and I'm just like handheld, like clearing the building, like that. That's kind of how I figure you would use it. Or the alternate method would be to buy 3 Surefire 6Ps and attach them to the bottom of all your magazines so that you are able to keep reloading your lights. I guess you could do that. Okay, this next drill is called, they're casting Pedro Pascal as Captain Price in the Modern Warfare 2 live action movie. Sir, put the contract down! Modern Warfare 2019 be like, jeez, dude. Okay. I'm not feeling great about this. Not feeling great about this. My acquisition of the red dot is not very fast. That was actually not that bad. We're doing double taps per thing. Hey, actually wasn't that bad. Spoke too soon. Spoke too soon. We're gonna have a good one right here. Ready? It's gonna be fire. Gordon clones ain't cheap, and that's why today's video is brought to you by DNT Optics. Now, I actually have their Therm Night scope here, and this is a multi-spectral scope that contains thermal and digital night vision all in one, and you can see it with a picture-in-picture mode that they have. So you have basically a large window and a smaller window, and you choose which one you want to be thermal and which one you want to be digital night vision. And the idea behind that is that the thermal is used to pick up the heat signatures, and the digital night vision is to identify what you're actually looking at. They also contain the most expansive ballistic calculator and laser rangefinder with 8,000 different data points and bullets that you can plug directly into the scope, or you can use the application. They also contain a recoil activated mode, so when you go to take a shot, it will record the 6 seconds prior to that first round going off, and then when you go to offload your footage, you just use the USB cable that comes with it. That USB cable is not used to charge the scope, it's just for offloading your footage, just like you would with a normal USB. It also has a built-in IR illuminator, and their cheapest ones are starting in at $9.99, so the days of affordable thermal and digital night vision are finally here, and the average person is going to finally be able to get into it. I think as the future goes on, thermal is going to be used more and more. In warfare, we already see that, but in the civilian side, I think more and more people are going to start getting this stuff in their hands, and I think that's pretty cool. So thank you, DNT, for sponsoring the video. Now, speaking of optics, let's get to the Tasco Optima 2000. So let's talk about the red dot. So red dot technology is very fascinating to me because it kind of started with like competition shooters. Competition shooters are often the early adopters of a lot of the stuff that we enjoy today. You know, it's usually like high-speed military guys and competition shooters. And honestly, there's a lot of overlap there. Like a lot of Delta Force guys, Larry Vickers and whatnot, he was talking about this in his interview with Sean Ryan, like he would go out and do a lot of competition shooting. So there was, not everybody who was a competition shooter back in the 80s and 90s was a military guy, but there was a lot of there's a lot of overlap there is all I'm trying to say. So you had a lot of these guys already understood the significance of something like a free float barrel or red dots, right? These guys, if you're autistic enough, you're like at that grandmaster level, then you're somebody who's dry firing all the time. You probably have multiple of the same gun to practice with, and you have a whole belt set up that is for dry fire only, and then you have another one for live fire. You know, these guys are really like dialed into this whole stuff. And you know, it took them not too long once red dots hit the market to figure out like, hey, red dots are kind of the future. Like these things work very well, and they are much faster than iron sights. So that was kind of the culture was starting to shift internationally as well as domestically here in the United States. And one gentleman by the name of, I think his name is Jeremy White, or is that the guy from The Bear? Let me make sure my notes here are right, because I don't want to be giving you all the wrong information intentionally. You're probably going to get some wrong information. It's just hopefully not intentional. Yeah, Jeremy White. So this is the gist of it. You can go read the history on shieldsights.com. I'll link it down below. You guys can watch it. So basically, Jeremy was a competition shooter, IPSC. So he was in the UK. Back when the UK had gun rights, they were doing competition shooting and whatnot. And he was into it. He was using red dots and whatnot. He won championships. He was really good at it, whatever. He eventually ended up moving to the United States because the UK banned firearm ownership, you know, pistol ownership. So that's a huge bummer for them, obviously. And I hope that someday they're able to get their rights back, because their country's kind of in the toilet at this point. But I digress. So he goes to Texas and he works for another company, and eventually he gets to a point, this is like real rough. You can go read the fine details. I'm just giving you like the real basic information here. But basically Jeremy ends up working with some other guys, and they make the first mini red dot sight, which is this one right here. And it was originally called the Fire Point, and this would eventually grow to become the original Trijicon red dot sight. So that's actually really cool. But he basically makes this, and he goes with his company to SHOT Show in 1997, and Tasco sees it and they go, hey, we really like this idea. Will you make it for us? And then Jeremy and his company Shield, I guess it's Shield or Fire. It was called the Fire Point, but it was Shield was the company. So Shield is like, okay, we'll OEM for you, Tasco, and then Tasco produces it for a few years, and then it becomes like it's kind of confusing because it keeps switching. So it's really the Shield keeps making it for everybody, but it goes from Tasco, and then it goes to a company called J Point, and then a company eventually, you know, it would go to. And then after J Point, it would eventually become Trijicon would pick it up, and they would say, hey, Shield, will you make this red dot? And then it was branded as the Trijicon red dot sight. So not the RMR, that's something different, but the very first Trijicon mini red dot was the one that Shield was making. They were OEMing for. So I think that's really cool. There's also, they talk about on their website that the British military was some of the first adopters of like piggyback optics. So guys, there was some guy out there who made a way to mount this to the top of an ACOG. So eventually they would come out with the RMR, which is something that Jeremy and Shield helped Trijicon with. Trijicon doesn't really give them that street cred on their website, but on the Shield site, they're like, yeah, we were there. You know, we helped Trijicon. It's kind of reminds me of that like I haven't seen the show, but I've seen the memes of like the Deep in the show The Boys.
They cut me from the picture. They can't just cut me from the picture. They can't cut me out.
Where he's like, they cut me out of the picture. That's kind of like Shield sites with on Trigicon, you know, because like Trigicon doesn't really like mention them. But that's honestly where the history came from. So today, Shield still makes this red dot. It's just called like the Shield site though. I think it's actually the exact same footprint and everything. They also make new ones as well, and I think they're actually in service still with the British military, which is kind of cool because, you know, it's a British company. You don't really hear about, you know, the British making anything, I feel like, outside of bad decisions and electing terrible mayors. But it's pretty cool, and I really enjoy this little pistol. It's got me really interested in, honestly, shooting with the red dot, because I'm going to admit to you right now, I'm bad about this. I have neglected my normal EDC handgun by not putting a red dot on it, but actually shooting a handgun with a red dot has gotten me more interested in shooting my handgun and practicing with it and trying to get better. So my philosophy on the whole thing is like, if you know, that's why I like to do a lot of fun guns and things, is because if there's a gun out there that gets you to the range more, I feel like that is very important. You know, people want to be more responsible with gun purchases. Hey, don't clone. You know, get like 3 rifles, your SHTF rifle, your training, your long range, your backpack gun, and those things are fine. I'm not saying like that's bad, but you know, I'm of the opinion that if a gun is fun and gets you to the range to shoot, then that's a good thing. Ultimately, what you do at the range is important, because you can go and shoot 10,000 rounds a year, but if you don't like actually try to shoot to any standard, you're just wasting ammo. So there is that, but I'm sure I would hope that there's like a passive skill you gain by spending so much time at the range. You know, I'm all for if people want to clone stuff or have fun and take an old gun like this, go have a blast with it. Then if it gets people to the range, dude, I'm all for it. And it's gotten me to practice more. It's like the gun that's gotten me back into shooting handguns. So like I really have been enjoying shooting this thing. And now I'm like, dude, I gotta get my gun cut, because it's just like it feels like such a chore. Even though if I would have done it like 2 years ago, I would already have it, it'd be good. But it's like, dude, I don't want to send my gun and wait. But it's like, if you already did it, stupid Bill Gates mosquitoes everywhere. If you already did it, dude, you'd already have it. So maybe I'll get a shield. No, I'll get a Trigicon probably. But that's pretty much all that I got for this video. Real simple. Just wanted to go over this little thing, because I feel like, you know, there's a lot of Glock content out there, but you don't always see something like this every day. And, you know, I'm glad to have something like this in the collection, especially since it's an original. I just think it's cool. So I appreciate you guys stopping by, watching the video. I hope this thing focuses. I appreciate you guys stopping by, watching the video. Hope you got something out of it. Hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you guys have a good rest of your day.